I need to pay the bills. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Hey, what is going on, guys? Worst Trends here. Now, what character in BFDI would you say had the hardest drop-off out of any character in the show? Match? Yellowface? Teardrop? No, that bitch deserved it. Barf Bag is the topic of today's video. Who would have guessed? Why have I decided to make a video about Barf Bag specifically, you might be wondering? Well, because I thought the title was funny and now I have to make the video. But also because of the unique position she had in Teapot. That position being in the fucking background half the time. She had almost no spotlight on her the entire season. There are 42 contestants in Teapot, so I completely understand if a handful of them don't get to do much for a few episodes. Like, wow, Eggy didn't do much in Teapot 3, everyone riot! But it's the fact that throughout all 12 episodes that she competed in, she had one, count it, one thing to do. Which, by the way, lasted less than a single episode. Really think about it though, Barf Bag is the only character in the entire show that's like this. With every other character, I can name at least 2 interesting things they did during their time in the game. With the exception of Saw, I guess, but genuinely who gives a fuck. And it's not just that Barf Bag was some boring ass character the whole time either. If memory serves me right, she was fantastic in the Lava Trilogy and just as fun in BFDIA. So that's why I think it would be interesting to take a step back and look at Barf Bag's entire history throughout the show. This won't be a review of these episodes or anything, seeing as I just made a 7-hour video ranking every single episode in all of BFDI. But I think by the end of this, we'll truly be able to understand Barf Bag as a character and maybe even find out how she ended up like this. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to go back to the beginning. The very beginning! Man, this sucks. Okay, so considering that Barf Bag wasn't a contestant in the first 3 seasons of the show, there's pretty much nothing to talk about here, so we're just gonna kind of speedrun it. We already covered the... And that's it for BFDI. Holy fuck, I finally realized why it's F tier. I have a little more to say about BFDIA though. In episode 14, she gets brought in to host, but unfortunately, all the other little blood-sucking parasites in the LOL cry and whine, saying that they want to host instead, and Barf Bag actually lets them. Since episode 8 of that season, any person that Golf Ball has called has become the permanent host. Well, I say permanent, but they all just fucking died. Barf Bag had every right to host all by herself, but instead decided to be nice. She doesn't even put up much of an argument. It's a good show of character. Unfortunately, after the cake at stake that episode, she doesn't do anything noteworthy. I don't know, maybe she had like a singular line later in the episode, but I'm not gonna rewatch the entire thing just to check. She also does appear in some subsequent episodes, but again, nothing noteworthy. That may be all she has to offer for season 2, but I think that little bit of screen time goes a long way. She's just a very charming character. She's very level-headed and reasonable, which are usually my favorite types of characters in not just object shows, but all media. Donut, Brian Griffin, Mr. Gus, Cheesy Mayo. There's also IDFB, but I don't know what you want me to say. Wow, her 4 seconds of screen time this season was fantastic. I'm sure there's something they could do with her this season though. Maybe have her hang out with Taco or something. That could be cool looking back to BFB 13. Okay, yeah, that too, I guess. Now this, my friends, is where shit gets real. As opposed to everything before it that was fake. And I'm not gonna lie to you and say that Barf Bag was some super compelling character for the whole season, because she really wasn't. Look, I really enjoy early BFB. When I think of episodes 1 through 9, I think of simple, wacky, yet well thought out fun. It's got this very specific feel to it that's seemingly impossible to recapture. Except for Animatic Battle 1, they kinda did it there. Early pre-split was really good at what it was trying to do. However, this part of the show was atrocious when it came to giving characters equal screen time. But to be fair, this era had the largest pool of characters in the entire series. But it felt like for these first 9 episodes, only 2 or 3 characters per team got any modicum amount of spotlight. Hell, Death Pact as a whole had like nothing to do the entire season. What Pre-Split liked to do instead was focus a fuck ton on a select few characters while leaving many others in the dust. And aside from the aforementioned Death Pact, I feel like no other team had it worse in this era than Team Ice Cube. Not only Barf Bag, but Bommy, Naily, Fiery Jr., Bracelety, and even Spongy to an extent were never given any attention. This left all the newbies of the team to be extremely boring. But thankfully, via the grace of God, BFB 12 released. That was the last time they would do that for a while. This episode, while not earth-shattering, did a really good job fleshing out each member of Team Ice Cube. Barf Bag, for instance, went from just getting harassed all the time, I guess, to being reasonable, fair, and understanding. The small amount of time she has in this episode sets her up as a very respectable individual, being a great straight woman to the rest of the team's severe wackiness, alongside Donut. She even sticks up for him in this one scene. Just something about this character in this episode felt so genuine, and that idea would only skyrocket in the very next episodes. Yeah, the next two. BFB 13 and 14 are still legendary episodes. I hear a lot of people throw around the term nostalgia blind quite a bit when it comes to pre-split, saying that some people remember pre-split being far better than it really is, and it being unfair when those unrealistic expectations are then put onto the new Teapot episodes. But I think what the people that say this are missing is that pre-split and Teapot are so fundamentally different in so many ways. However, this idea does not apply at all to the Lava trilogy. The amount of both character and story that was jam-packed into these episodes is yet to be topped in impact, in my opinion. And yes, that does mean it's better than the recent Pen stuff. Half of that shit was so disorientating and poorly shoehorned in that I can't believe people are glazing it as much as they are. The arc as a whole seemingly has no real endpoint, with Pen jumping from mini arc to mini arc without a real idea of where it could possibly go in the next episode, or how his ideology was able to shift so much in such a small amount of time. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, that's right, getting a paycheck. Here comes the money! Anyway, yeah, in BFB 13 and 14, Barf Bag is a fantastic character. In just these two episodes, she jumped from my 44th favorite contestant up to number 2. Behind Saw. The BFB 13 opening scene is fantastic. The way she tries to be a good friend to both Spongy and Taco despite them being assholes is honestly just honorable. That's kinda it for the episode though, lol. BFB 14. Dude, Barf Bag in this episode is so peak. There's so many little things she does in this episode that makes her just such an enjoyable character. Like when Nelly punctures her, she doesn't immediately start complaining or yelling at Nelly like most other characters would. Or how she's able to figure out the volcano before the ground splits open. Like, she uses logic and reasoning, that's insane! And moving on to Spongy's betrayal.
No, one seat is one seat. And, this is what you get for not remembering me last episode.
Oh, that sucks. I was hoping we'd made up for that.
I want to real quick talk about a book by Dale Carnegie titled How to Win Friends and Influence People. In his discussion to do just that, Carnegie explains that the most effective way is to never criticize, condemn, or complain. So yeah, that's why I think Barf Bag was such a universally enjoyed character at this time. And even though the lava just entered this tunnel and we need to come up with a new plan fast, Barf Bag takes the challenges she faces with stride, never giving up even when it seems obvious that they're all going to die. Like seriously, they all should have died from Bommy's explosion. That blast radius is so damn inconsistent. All that to say that from BFB 12 to 14, Barf Bag is such an endearing character. A lot of BFDI's cast of characters are so wacky and exaggerated, yet here's Barf Bag who's such a grounded character. These types of ones are always the most relatable, which is also a huge reason as to why I've liked Donut for so long. And that's really the main thing, at least for me. And why I was so excited to see her get more fleshed out in the greatest season of the show's history. There is almost nothing to talk about when it comes to Teapot Barf Bag. As the thumbnail states, she does jack shit all season. Like, TV of all characters is a more worthwhile addition to the Teapot roster, and that's fucking TV! It seems like the writers lost their grip on Barf Bag as a character, like they suddenly forgot how to write for her. So she mostly just sits in the background, and whenever she does do something, it always feels so out of character, like this is something she'd never do. Of course, there's the iconic Teapot 4 scene where she freaks the fuck out for no reason. Why aren't people posting clips of this? And that's pretty much where Barf Bag's story ends. Yes, really. She stands stationary in Teapot 12 and gets eliminated because of it. The thing is, there was actually one time where the writers attempted to focus on Barf Bag, that being Teapot 10. Notice how I used the word attempt. Like, yeah, this episode does tackle Barf Bag's guilt from starting the apocalypse last episode, but she's still sleeping for a vast majority of the episode, and the actual character arc is practically non-existent in the entire challenge portion of the episode. You'd think for an episode focused on Barf Bag, she'd have more than 3 lines. I'm serious.
Huh? Where am am I? I'm sorry about that, guys. I was hiding. I was worried you guys were gonna be scared of me after the whole lava thing causing that undead mess. I didn't want to be a danger to anyone.
Wait! Can't breathe!
And that's it.
Barf Bag's story in Teapot has got to be one of the most baffling things in this entire show. And I'm not trying to blame or start a fight with the writers or anything. Again, with this amount of characters, I'm not surprised something like this happened. But it's who it happened to is what makes it interesting. It wasn't just some nobody, it was an actually interesting character. In pre-split, Barf Bag felt like she was almost guaranteed to make it to the merge, if not further. And when Teapot started and changed to the vote to save format, I thought she'd be able to make it really far. It seemed like there was no possible way Barf Bag could fail, no matter what she did. Well, unless she did nothing at all. Okay, video's done. Can I get my paycheck now?